He just shot himself. 41 dispatch, 141 dispatch, get EMS here.
But on the night of April 23rd, 1993, the paramedics couldn't help here. What seemed like an ending that night was in reality the beginning of an investigation into the mind of a predator.
So I think it was right in here.
News 10 ABC photographer and colleague Rick Easton took me back to the parking lot off of Wolf Road where 25 years ago he would end up covering the most bizarre story of his career.
It just was surreal. It was like it wasn't really happening.
He was shooting a story about undercover colony police officers.
And they would go from bar to bar trying to catch people doing drugs. And they made one arrest.
But what he thought was a bust of a story was about to shift gears after a call requesting backup.
141, 110.
A white Lincoln had been pulled over. The driver wanted in an attempted kidnapping.
He looks a little bit strange here.
The two officers in my car were getting out of the car, just starting to get out. As I was getting out, one of them yells out,
He just shot himself.
Wheels on the car started spinning. The car started taking off, and we just ran after it.
Rick's camera rolls on the gory scene. The driver is dead. Astonished officers search the car, finding weapons, receipts for surveillance items, and taped over door handles.
They knew he was into something, and they were starting to put it all together. And then, you know, the story just exploded.
Good evening. Our top story, the tale of a
New
stalker.
disclosures tonight in
Police say this is
inside
a bedroom torture chamber.
And this is the latest case of obsession gone mad.
A nation of shocked viewers watched the video, but the story behind it was even more disturbing. Before his violent end, Gary Walensky had been a popular New York City tennis pro, but his attention to one young player had become a dangerous obsession.
His whole life for the previous month was putting this scenario together so that once he got her, she wasn't going to get away.
Steve Heider is now a retired colony police chief. Back in 1993, he headed up the investigation.
It's impossible for us to put ourselves in the mind of an irrational person.
He says Walensky had used a vehicle homing device to follow the young girl and her family to a tournament in the capital region. Walensky's plan? An attempted kidnapping outside their hotel.
They saw someone pushing a wheelchair across the parking lot. It was all part of the disguise. It went from a glance, seeing the guy pushing a wheelchair, turning back to their car, and then him on the top of them.
The girl's mother fought Walensky off, and he sped away in his rented Lincoln. A search of his hotel room reveals a collection of weapons, surveillance equipment, sadomasochistic restraints, and masks and wigs used as disguises. Police also find receipts for an Adirondack cabin paid in full for a year. Inside the intended house of horrors, police found windows and doors boarded shut, a bed with shackles, pornographic tapes, monitors, and security cameras. A place so secluded, no one would have ever heard the young girl yelling for help.
Do you think that she would have survived? That he would have let her live?
More likely not.
He was a great guy. I mean, he cared for the people he taught.
Deep denial was the most common reaction among many of Gary Walensky's young tennis players, even as previous stalking cases involving him and young children were being exposed after his death.
I didn't really process what he had done. I just knew it was something bad, but that the Gary I knew wasn't bad.
When she was 14, Piper Weiss was one of the so-called Gary's girls, young students who received his many cards and gifts.
What you thought was kindness and being close was really grooming.
Right.
And Piper says that grooming led her to a moment alone with her coach inside his car.
He confided in me that he was depressed and that he was afraid that, you know, you all grow up and you go away. And he was referring to his students. I think he felt somehow abandoned by us.
As for why Gary Walensky was driven to stalk and victimize children, his own words may provide some insight.
I wish that all the times I spent with you, with all of you, would never end. Obsession may be so dangerous, certainly if laid on a 17-year-old's mind.
The tape made right before his final act.
I loved you all, and I'm just a lonely man who lost his way. And maybe I'll be someday forgiven at the end of the movie.